Hello. Please confirm this is good so that we can kickstart the session, please. Hey, Steamroller, good morning to you. Kindly confirm you can hear me, please, so that Oh, thank you very much, Carrie. Thank you, Steamroller. I appreciate that. So I'm sorry for that little hitch there. So I hope things are sorted out for today. All right. So with that being said here, I would like to take that as a positive feedback that we are good to go this morning. I'm excited to welcome you to yet another promising session on the Extreme Speed. My name is Sharif Daramola, and as usual, I will be your host for the next 1 hour, where we shall be evaluating the financial market using technical parameters to identify trading opportunities lining up for us today. And as usual in this community, what we do here is to review all the pairs we have been monitoring since the beginning of the week. So we have 5 to 6 pairs that we have been monitoring since Monday, and we have some couple of trades on this pair running, and in fact we've been profitable in most of this trade. So we are going to be reviewing these pairs, then we shall be deciding what our next line of action is going to be for today. And if you are joining us for the first time, you're welcome, and I hope that you stay tuned in so that you understand how this works out, and with time you get to be able to make your individual decision using the information that you have gathered from this point. So with that being said, here I will be diving right into the market. But before we go into the chart, we want to be looking at the economic calendar, as we have a couple of macroeconomic events to look out for today. And running into the economic calendar here, we have the consumer price index for the pound, which actually happened 4 hours ago, and things did not look good for the pound, as we saw an actual figure of 10.1%, which is against the expectation of 10.3, giving us a variance of negative 0.81. And it appears we have been seeing reactions to in that regard in the market, as the pounds had dropped drastically well in the last 12 hours. Then we also have the retail sales coming up later today. That's in 2 hours 30 minutes from now. And from what we can see here, it appears there is some positivity in the air for the US dollar, as the previous data came in at minus 1.1%, and we have a consensus of 1.8. So there is a level of positivity in the air, and we shall be looking forward to see what data will be coming in and how participants in this market will be anticipating this event. Then the same thing comes in for the retail sales control group, where the previous data came in at minus 0.7, and we have a consensus of 0.3. So it appears that the dollar might likely be gaining more traction prior to this release, or probably after this release. But one thing we are going to be doing here is to evaluate the market structure, use the current market structure to decide what our next line of action will be. So with that being said, here we shall be diving right into the chart, and the first commodity we are going to be looking at this morning is the US oil. And on the US oil, we have a beautiful profitable position at this particular point in time. So I will be running you through what has been going on here since the beginning of the week. And from the look of things here on the 1 hour time frame, so this is the 1 hour time frame we are looking at currently. And at the beginning of the week, we had a situation where price action had been consolidating between the $79.50 level. Remember, this is where price action started the week at. And then we saw the buy pressure resume around the support level here at the $79 area. And you know, it's our culture here in this community that whenever we have a flat channel like this, all we need to do is to remain patient and wait out for either a breakout of the channel to give us an opportunity to buy, or a breakdown of the channel to give us an opportunity to sell. And in fact, we had the breakout of the channel happened during the New York session on Monday, with multiple rejection of that level to give us an opportunity to buy the US oil. And we were lucky enough to be part of this position, as we were able to move about the 130 pips in our direction before this bearish momentum happened. And during the live session yesterday, we were around this area at the $79.50 level, where we said we are going to continue to monitor price action around this area in order to make a decision. And one thing we said yesterday is that we continue to use this channel around the $79.50 level and the $79 area to decide what our next line of action will be. And we said we are going to be waiting for either a breakout of the channel, retest of structure to give us an opportunity to buy, or a breakdown of the channel, retest of structure to give us an opportunity to sell. And in fact, the latter is what happened here. So we saw some little volatility in the market around here. That was prior to the which event was that yesterday? Prior to let me see. Okay, I think the consumer price index, exactly. So prior to the consumer price index data yesterday, we saw some little volatility in the market, which lasted about 2 to 3 hours before market stabled back again. And if you were in that trade yesterday, you would have been taken out at one point in time, and I hope you moved your stop loss accordingly to secure whatever position you were in at that particular point in time. So we saw the situation where price broke down, retest the structure during the later part of the New York session yesterday to give us a signal that we might be selling the US oil for this week. And after the breakdown happened here, price action has moved about let's see how many pips, around 85 pips in our direction since that breakdown happened. And if you are part of this trade, kudos to you for being on standby to catch this move. And what we are going to be doing right now, for those who have been part of this trade, that is, if you have sold the US oil right below the $79 level, I will be advising you it's high time we moved our stop loss accordingly to lock in some profits at this point. And if we look at the current structure here, where do you think is most appropriate to lock in some profit? Well, price has really not moved that far anyways, and we still have a structure around the $78 level where I need price action to really break down that structure to the downside to give me a very huge confirmation that sellers are really strong at this point in the market. So what we are going to be doing right now is to move our stop loss somewhere right above the $78.65 level. Let's give some breathing for price action to run around before probably another wave of bearish momentum will happen. And if that is not going to be the case, and if price action continue to go to the upside, we shall definitely prepare ourselves in that regard. So for the sake of this point in time right now, move your stop loss accordingly, secure this current sell position we are in right now, and let's move in to see what our expectation is going to be like for today. So in order to identify our current evaluation, looking at this from a holistic point of view, we want to be scaling up into the daily time frame. Let's have an holistic view for what's really going on in this market. And for the sake of those who are not part of our previous session here, you will be able to see why we have made the decisions we have made so far. So right on the daily time frame here, it's very obvious that in the last 7 to 8 months, price action has been bearish in this particular market. And as a result of this, we were able to connect the series of lower highs here. As you can see, sorry that my highlight is a little bit wobbled. So we had this bearish trend line figured out after connecting the series of lower highs, and this had lasted about 7 to 8 months here, and price action continued to drop drastically. However, if we zoom into what has been happening here since the month of I think September, October till this present moment, we noticed that we had an initial demand zone around the $75.50 level, where we saw our buyers have been negating all attempted by the sellers to break further to the downside. Though we had a little breakdown here in the month of December, but price was unable to hold that structure. As you can see, price has been trading right above these levels. So we have a huge demand zone around this area before this time, and from my own point of view, this area appears to be an equilibrium for buying potential in this kind of market structure at this point. Now, in addition to the structure here, another important key level that we also laid much emphasis on, at least we have been using this in the last 4 months here, is the $80 level. And in fact, if you look into the past here, you will see how the $80 level has been a major determinant of price action when it comes to selling opportunities. Look at what happened here in the month of November. As soon as price came within the $80 range, we saw selling pressure resume from that area. The same thing also happened here during the first week of the month of December, and in fact the year, that is last year 2022, closed around the $80 level as buyers were finding it very, very difficult to break out of the structure. So the year started on a bearish note as well from that same $80 level, as we saw the bearish engulfing candle taking price right out of that structure. And looking at what has been happening here in the last couple of weeks, we saw how that level as well has been holding selling pressure. The same thing also happened at the beginning of this week. We saw that price action closed at the $80 level during the course of last week's trading session, but the week has started on a bearish note. As you can see here, in the last 72 hours, price action had rejected the $80 level and price is currently trading below that structure. So at this point in time, you would understand that price action has been very bearish here, and if we consider how price action has been reacting to the $80 level, you will agree that this area is a strong selling niche for participants in this market. And the only thing I will be saying here when it comes to buying the USOil is that we need to see price action break out of the $80 level to give us a beautiful confirmation that we can be getting ready to buy. As long as price remain below the $80 level at this point, I don't think we should be thinking of buying the USOil at this current time. So if we zoom into what has been happening here in the last 24 hours, you will see that price action is right back into that important structure we identified at the $78 level. Remember, as soon as price broke out of this bearish trend line that we identified earlier, we saw a consolidation phase between the $82.50 level and the $78 area, which lasted about 3 weeks before the breakdown of the structure happened a couple of weeks ago. And if you look at the structure here, price has come back to do a retest of that level. Though we had a breakout of that level, price action is back into that structure, which appears to have been a strong buying niche in the past. So we can see this level also has been a strong buying niche at one point in time, as you can see here, and the only time this level was broken to the downside was at this point. That was the first day of this month, and right now price is back at that zone. So at this point in time, you would agree we are at a critical point in the market where anything could actually happen. So if a further breakdown of the $78 level happens at this point, we might be getting ready to add more position to the current sell position we are in right now. And remember, for those who are already in the sell position we took advantage of in the last 24 hours, I have told you to move your stop loss accordingly, as we want to see how price action is going to be reacting to the $78 level here to decide what our next line of action is going to be. So if we scale down to a much lower time frame to see what is really going on here, let's quickly do that so that we can have a better perspective into what our next line of action is going to be. So scaling right down into the 1 hour time frame, this is what we have here, and this is the $78 level which we identified on the daily time frame. And as you can see, we have been witnessing some buy pressure resume around this area in the last couple of hours to give us a clue that there is a likelihood that we might be having a bullish momentum. And if we look at what happened here yesterday, that is during the New York session yesterday, I think after the CPI event, we saw a sharp rejection of the $78 level at this point. And if we go to as far back as last week's trading session, we saw how this level also had been a strong buying niche for participants in this market. And with the situation we have here in the last 2 hours, it's likely we might be having a bullish momentum coming at this point. So we are going to be looking forward to see how we want to be taking advantage of a bullish momentum here, if this is really going to be happening. And if we do have a breakdown of the structure to the downside, we shall be getting ready to join that decline at the breakdown of the $78 level. Now, for the buy potential that we begin to notice around this area, considering the buy pressure we have been seeing here in the last couple of hours, I would like us to scale down to a much lower time frame, probably like the 5 or the 15 minutes time frame, to really have a better look of what is really going on around that area. So in that regard, I will be scaling down into the 15-minute time frame here, and let's have a peep into what has really been going on here in the last couple of hours. Now, this is the 15 minutes time frame here, and as you can see, we have been witnessing some buy pressure around this area, and from a technical standpoint, it appears that we are having something that looks like a reversal pattern here. So what I'll be suggesting us to do, whenever we have a reversal structure like this, the next thing we want to be doing is to identify a neckline for that structure, which we will definitely be using to guide trading activities. So to do that now, we shall be bringing out our line chart and then find a neckline structure somewhere right around the $78.20 level. I'll be giving this a different color, so let's label this for the sake of clarity. So we have the $78.20 level here. Let's place this at the top right hand side of our screen, and what color should we give this? I need to differentiate it from the previous structure. Okay, so let's just give this this color here. So we have a key level here right now at the $78.20 level, and as you can see here in the last 2 hours, we have been witnessing some rejection of that structure here to emphasize some level of selling pressure around that area. Now, if we are really going to be buying at this point, I want to see something like a breakout of the neckline at the $78.20 level, followed by buying pressure above the structure on our lower time frame to join that bullish momentum to the upside. And from the look of things here, I'm of the opinion that if this bullish momentum finally happens and price action continues to climb to the upside, we shall be protecting our position by moving our stop loss accordingly to lock in some profits, just in case any sudden pullback might likely happen. And if we take into consideration the selling pressure we have been witnessing here since the beginning of the week, you will know that we need to be very, very careful if we are going to be buying right above the $78.20 level. And another thing I would like us to understand here is that if price action breaks out of the $78.20 level and continues to the upside, remember we had a structure here which was broken, $79 level. Remember, it was a support level for this week, which we identified at the beginning of this week, which was broken to the downside. There is a likelihood that price action might come back to do a retest of that structure to incite another wave of bearish momentum. So we need to be very, very careful if this is going to be happening. So if price action breaks out of the $78.20 level and continues to the upside, as soon as it gets into the $79 level, we want to be moving our stop loss accordingly to lock in some profit while we wait out and see how price action will be reacting to this level to decide if we are going to be adding more position or we are going to be getting ready to join a sell momentum from that point. So that is how we shall be looking forward to any bullish momentum at this current area. And if that does not happen, that is, if price action does not break out of the $78.20 level, then we continue to look out for selling opportunities right below the $78 area. And if that happens, we want to be adding more position to our existing trade. And for those who had missed out on this opportunity that happened during the early hours of today, well, this will be a very good opportunity to join this decline to the downside. So these are my views here on the US oil for today. So I hope I was able to make things a little bit clearer for you as we get prepared for the New York session. If you do have any questions, feel free to drop your inquiries in the comment section, and be rest assured that I will be willing to be of help in that regard. So I will be checking the comment section from time to time to see if there are any inquiries. So I will be moving on to the next option. So the next option we shall be looking at this morning is the US Tech. Remember, US Tech is one of the pairs we have been monitoring since the beginning of the week. So we want to be seeing how well those pairs have been doing so far. Sorry, I can see a comment. Someone is asking what about Euro USD, and that is ICHEM 406. Okay, Euro USD, we don't have Euro USD on our plan for this week. So what we are going to be doing is to review all the pairs we have chosen for this week, and if there is time, I will try to touch the Euro USD. Okay, so try to stay tuned in so that you wouldn't miss the analysis when it's time. All right. Okay, so the US Tech is what we are going to be looking at next, and on the US Tech we have been quite profitable for this week so far, as we were able to be part of the bullish momentum that started on Monday after the breakout retest of that resistance level at the 12,320 area. And we saw a situation where price was caught within a consolidation phase as soon as price tested the 12,520. And during the live session yesterday, I told you that due to this consolidation phase around here, we want to be moving our stop loss accordingly to somewhere right around the 12,460 level here. And in fact, we were taken out of that position during the volatility period that happened yesterday. That was prior to the consumer sentiment index that happened yesterday. So we saw some volatility here which lasted about 4 to 5 hours. So we were taking out of the position here before some normalcy came into the market, I think during the later part of the New York session yesterday. So at this point in time, the consolidation phase between the 12,520 and the $12,470 level is still very valid based on this current structure. Now that we are going into the New York session today, well, first of all, I would like us to ignore the volatility here. This is more or less like a noise. So we ignore that because this happened due to the macroeconomic event that happened yesterday. So the major place we are going to be focusing on right now is this channel between the 12,520 and the $12,470 level, which has been the yardstick we have been using since price action tested the 12,520. So what we are going to be doing today is to see how price action will be reacting to this channel to decide what our next line of action will be. So we return back to status quo on this one, as a breakout retest of the 12,520 level should be an opportunity for us to buy, and if a breakdown of the 12,470 level happens, we want to be selling at this point. And before we close on the US Tech, I would like us to take a quick revisit of the daily time frame so that we can see things from an holistic point of view to confirm whatever decision we are making here on the 1 hour time frame. So scaling up into the daily time frame here, this is what we saw at the beginning of the week, and it's important we quickly look at this critically and then go back to our 1 hour time frame to see where price action has a high chance of going during the New York session today. So on the daily time frame, the US Tech we noticed has been very bearish, that is since the beginning of last year, and as a result of that, we were able to connect the series of lower highs here to give us that resultant bearish trend line that you can see on your screen right now. And things got a little bit interesting during the month of June last year, where we saw how the $11,000 level played a major role in rejecting all selling momentum. As you can see, buyers use this area as a very strong buying niche to finally break out of that bearish trend line, to give us a signal that the bearish trend line no longer has the capacity to continue to hold bearish momentum. So we saw the breakout of this level at 11,700 and the bearish trend line here, and since the breakout happened, price action had continued to find higher highs, and the higher highs here saw price action breakout structures like the 12,100 level, a level which had been holding selling pressure for some time, I think, which lasted about a month thereabout between the months of November and December of last year. We saw the breakout of that structure, and one thing that happened here is that as soon as price got into the $12,900 level here, we started seeing selling pressure resume from that level. And if we go into the past to see how significant the 12,900 level has been, you will see how this level has been a major determinant of price action. If we go to as far back as the month of March last year, we saw how this level was actually a buying pressure for some time before we saw the final breakdown of the structure happen here in the month of May. We saw a retest of structure in the month of June to further emphasize the strength of the sellers at this point. Though we had some little breakout of structure which later appeared to be a false one, price action dropped below the 12,900 level again in the month of August, and since then price has been trading below the 12,900 to further emphasize the strength of the sellers at this point. And during the course of I think a couple of weeks ago, when price action came back into the 12,900, we saw how that level also incited another wave of selling pressure, which led to the breakdown of the 12,400 level during the course of last week's trading session. Now, the next thing we did here during the live session at the beginning of the week here is to observe what has been going on this chart since the beginning of this year. And remember, we laid emphasis on how we had bullish momentum around the $11,000 level. And since the beginning of this year, we saw our price action resumed by pressure above that level. And as a result of this, it has been very bullish since the beginning of this year. And as a result of this, we were able to connect the series of higher lows here to give us that resultant bullish trend line, which has been supporting bullish momentum since the beginning of this year. And at the beginning of the week here, we saw the situation where we started seeing buy pressure around the $12,300 level, which also shares a beautiful confluence with that bullish trend line to emphasize the possibility that we could be having a buy pressure resume from that area to incite another wave of bullish momentum, and at the same time respecting that bullish trend line one more time. And we were lucky enough to be part of this buy position as we took advantage of this move at the beginning of the week, and price action has been finding higher highs and higher lows in that regard. And remember, I also told you how important the 12,400 level is. As I said, if we see selling pressure below the structure, we shall be selling, and if a breakout happens, we want to be adding more position, and that was exactly what we did as we saw the breakout of the 12,400. So right now, price is back within that channel between the 12,800 and the $12,400 level. So we want to see what is really going on around the 12,600 area to decide what our next line of action will be. So we shall be looking forward to price action continuing to the upside here, where a situation where a breakout price, it might likely see a situation on our lower time frame where a trend continuation pattern happens here to incite another wave of bullish momentum. So that's one possibility. And at the same time, we cannot ignore the possibility that price action could break down to 12,400, breaking down that bullish trend line to incite another wave of bearish momentum. So we have to keep that also in mind as we continue to look out for buying opportunity on the US tech. So this will be more simpler for us to see if we scale back down to the 1 hour time frame, where we shall be looking forward to see how price action has been reacting to the structure in the last 24 hours to decide what our next line of action will be. So the next thing we'll be doing right now is to scale down to the 1 hour time frame, and let's do that quickly and see what is going on there around that structure. to decide what our next line of action will be for today. So right now we are the 1 hour time frame. This is the 1 hour time frame here, and if you remember vividly, we were able to identify the structure, that is the channel between the 12,520 and the 12,470 level. This is where price action has been since we joined the bullish momentum above the 12,320, and as soon as price tested the 12,520, we saw this consolidation phase around here, emphasizing the indecision in this market, and it appears that this consolidation phase continues to hold here. So like I said, let us ignore this area, as it's a reflection of the volatility that happened during the consumer sentiment index that happened yesterday. So we are coming back into the channel, which is still between the 12,520 and the 12,470 level. And if you look at what has been happening here since the early hours of today, since price action dropped back into this channel, we can see that price action is floating above the 12,470, is tending towards the resistance level of that channel. And you know, from a technical standpoint, when this knocking continues over time, at one point in time it will finally cave in. So I'm of the opinion that we might be having a bullish momentum at this point based on this current structure here. So we should be having our buy order right above the 12,520 level to take advantage of a trend continuation to the upside. However, in as much as we continue to look out for buying opportunity at the break above of this 12,520, we should not ignore the possibilities of selling opportunities if price action breaks down to 12,470, does a retest of structure in our lower time frame. Then we could join the bearish momentum to the downside, and if a further breakdown of the 12,400 level happens, we want to be adding more position to our existing trade. But I'm not sure this is going to be happening anytime soon, as I continue to see how buyers continue to knock this resistance level. And if you look at the last 2 hours here, we saw an engulfing candle springing out of the $12,500 level, and I'm of the opinion that we might be having a bullish momentum anytime soon. And currently price is still trading above that bullish trend line to further emphasize how important the bullish momentum at this point is. So for those who are still with me here, ensure that the 12,520 level and that bullish trend line guides our bullish momentum. So as long as price remains above the 12,520, we will remain comfortable in our buy position. So these are my views here on the US tech. If you have any questions, feel free to drop your inquiries in the comment section, and I am willing to be of help in that regard. So with that being said here, I will be moving on to the next pair, and I will be checking the comment section from time to time to see if there are any questions for me. So with that being said here, we shall be moving on to the next pair, and the next pair we are looking at this morning is the USDJPY. And the USDJPY has been a profitable trade for us since the beginning of this week. In fact, we have been buying the USDJPY since Friday last week, and I told you how we kept a buy position open over the weekend after we took advantage of this buy position right above the 131.00 level during the New York session on Friday. And since then, price action has been finding higher highs and higher lows to further emphasize the strength of the buyers at this point. So the week started on a bullish note for us as price action started around the 131.400 level here. In fact, we had a channel between the 131.400 and the 131.800 level at this point, and we said a breakout of the 131.800 level will give us another opportunity to add more position to our existing trade. And in fact, we had a position triggered here on Monday, I guess, and price action moved to the upside, retesting the 132.900 level as we saw selling pressure resume below that structure to push price to the downside. We took advantage of the sell momentum as well, and price action dropped into the 131.800 level during the early hours of yesterday's trading session. So during the live session yesterday, we were around the structure here, around the 132.300 and the 131.800, where I told you how we still continue to look out for buying momentum if price action breaks out of the 132.300 level. And this was exactly what happened during the New York session yesterday. Price action broke out of the 132.300 level to give us another opportunity to add more position to our buy position on the USDJPY. And I told you yesterday that we have a key structure at the 132.900, that as soon as price gets into the 132.900 level, we want to move our stop loss accordingly, secure the current position as we wait out and see how price action will be reacting to the 132.900 level to decide if we are going to be adding more position or we are going to be getting ready to sell. And in fact, we saw the breakout retest of structure. Though we had a little breakdown of the 132, price action resumed the bullish momentum, and now price action is climbing, finding higher highs at this point. So if you had been part of this trade in the last 24 hours, kudos to you, as you will currently be running with about over 105 pips in profit at this point. And if you also added the second position here, you'll be running with about 45 pips, which is close to about 160 pips thereabout. So well done to you guys for being on standby to take advantage of that move. So congratulations once again for those who have been part of this profitable journey. And the next thing we are going to be doing right now is to secure this current position, as we don't want to get caught up in any sudden pullback that might likely happen from this current structure. So my advice right now is that we should move our stop loss to somewhere right above the or around the 132.900, which happens to be our entry point for the second position we have here on the USDJPY, while we continue to monitor price action from this level. And for those who had missed out on this opportunity, don't worry, we're still going to be looking forward to see if the market will be presenting us with another chance to join this rally to the upside. So before we go into that details here, I would like us to go back into the daily time frame. Let's have an holistic view of what is really going on in this market till this point, and then come back here to make a decision for today. At the same time, see how we could add more position to this current bullish momentum we are enjoying so far. So I will be scaling up into the daily time frame right now, and on the daily time frame, this is what we were able to see at the beginning of this week. So if we zoom out a little further here, I showed you how the USDJPY has been experiencing a bullish momentum in the last 2 years. In fact, we went to as far back as October of 2022, and we saw how the our price action has been finding higher highs and higher lows. And as a result of this, I was able to identify this bullish range here that you can see on your screen. Things became very interesting in the month of March last year. Is it March or May? I think, okay, April last year, we saw a situation where price came in within the 131.00 level, where we saw a consolidation phase between the 131.00 level and the 127.00 area before the breakout of that structure happened in the month of June. And since then, price action had been trading right above the 131 level to further emphasize how the 131.00 level has been a strong buying niche for this particular market. Now, during the early days of this year, that is, I think the second week of January, we saw a situation where price broke down the 131 level, coming back into that channel between the 127.00 level and the 131.00 area to earmark a consolidation phase at that point. And in fact, we were lucky enough to sight a reversal pattern there after taking into consideration this impulsive move to the downside. We saw the first touch of the 127.00 level. Price action came back into the 131. We saw the second touch as price action was unable to break the previous low, which is a very beautiful sign that there is a tendency that buyers are gradually coming in this market. And if we look at the structure this has evolved into, it looks more like a reversal pattern in the form of a double bottom structure. And you know that whenever we identify such a structure like this, the next thing we want to be doing is to identify the neckline, which we shall be using as a yardstick for trading opportunity. And luckily enough for us, and coincidentally, the 131.00 level shared a beautiful confluence with that neckline area as we looked out for a breakout retest of the 131.00 level to give us an opportunity to buy. And this is exactly what happened last week. We saw the breakout of the 131.00 level. At this point, price action came back within the zone, did some multiple rejection of that level area, which was characterized by buying pressure to inside this move to the upside. And we are lucky enough to have been part of this move as we continue to enjoy that bullish momentum to the upside. So right now we have a structure here at the 132.800 level, which is a level that was a self-selling niche during the course of last week's trading session, and it appears price action has broken out of that structure to emphasize that buyers are still very strong in this market. So we shall be using the 132.800 level as a yardstick for trading opportunities on the lower time frame at this point. So with the information we have gathered here on the daily time frame, we shall be scaling back down into the 1 hour time frame, where we shall be looking forward to see how we want to be probably adding more position to our existing trade. So right now we are back to the 1 hour time frame, and I said we are going to be using the 132.800. So I think the 132.900 seems most appropriate. So let's keep to the 132.900, which is the entry point of our second position this morning. Let's keep it at that. And then we look out for buying opportunities above this level. And for those who are already in this trade, remember you've moved your stop loss to somewhere around the 132.900 or 850 area as we continue to monitor price action. Now, for those who had missed out on this opportunity here, how do we intend to join if the market will present to us another opportunity? So if we bring out our line chart here, we have a structure here. First of all, I think around the 133.200. So for the sake of this, let's draw that out so that we can use that as a reference. Now I would like to use this one. So we have the 133.200, which falls around here. Let me extend this out a little bit so that we can 133.200. So I will have to relabel this 133.200 level. So let's place it at the top. Okay, so here we go. So we have the 132.200. We already had a breakout of that level. Right now we had a couple of rejection of that structure. So I will be advising us to keep our eyes on the 133.200. If we do have price action come back into that level, you could have a buy limit there. And if we see buying pressure above that level, then that buy execution will become valid at this point. Then in addition to the 133.200 level, we can see our price action has been rejecting the 133.500 level here in the last 3 to 4 hours now. So we also have another structure around the 133.500. So let's label that too as well. So we have the 133.500 at this point. So if price action does not come back into the 132.200 level, then we should be waiting for price action to break out of the 133.500 level to give us an opportunity to add more position to our existing trade. Now, there is one thing I would like us to know here, to see here on the USDJPY, that even if price drops to the downside, that is drops below the 133.200, we could have a situation where price breaks down, retest of structure. We are not jumping into any sell position yet, as we still have the structure at the 132.900, which also shares a beautiful confluence with that bullish trend line that has been guiding bullish momentum since last week. So there is a likelihood that price coming into the structure at the 132.900 will be inciting another wave of bullish momentum at the appearance of buy pressure around the zone on our lower time frame. So let's keep that in mind too as well. So we shouldn't get anxious or scared if price action drops below this level. So we still have a structure here at the 132.900, which has a potential of holding bullish momentum. However, if price action breaks down the 132.900 level, which I doubt will happen, but if it does happen that price action breaks down the 132.900 level, during the New York session today, we shall be getting ready to join a sell position at the site of selling momentum right below the structure. So these are my views here on the USDJPY. I hope you munch my screen so that you can use it as a reference point when you're about to make your individual decision on this pair. If you have any questions, feel free to drop your inquiries in the comment section while I move on to the next pair. So don't mind me, I want to take some cup of water first before I move on. All right, so in the absence of no questions, I will be moving on to the next pair. So the next pair we shall be looking at this morning is the USDCHF, which Steamroller introduced to us at the beginning of this week. And I hope Steamroller is still in the house. If you are, please let me know you are in the room, and let's move into what we saw here yesterday. So during the live session yesterday, we saw a situation where the 0.91600 level had been a strong buying niche, at least since last week's trading session. We saw how the 0.91600 had been negating all attempt by the sellers to break down that structure. And because of the buy pressure we noticed around the 0.91600, I told you how much we will continue to look out for buying opportunities on the USDCHF. Though we sold on Monday here right around the structure, and I told you to move your stop loss accordingly, as obviously we were taking out of that position with some small profit here. And one thing I told you during the live session yesterday is that we want to be looking out for buying opportunities at the breakout of the 0.92150 level, breakout retest of that structure to give us an opportunity to buy. And why were we thinking of buying above the 0.92150 level? Well, the above the 0.92150 level shares a confluence with that bullish trend line, which has been guiding bullish momentum since the beginning of this month. And for the sake of this, I would like us to scale up a little bit into the 4 hours time frame, where we will be able to see things more clearly. Okay, Steamroller, I see you. Glad you're around. All right. So we had a situation here on the 4 hours time frame where we saw this bullish trend line after connecting the series of higher lows here, and we saw the breakdown of that structure, which triggered the sell position we had on Monday. Price action broke down that structure to the downside here, and we saw buy pressure resume again around the 0.91600 to the upside here. Now we bought above the 0.92150 level here yesterday, and price action actually moved about it wasn't that much anyways, about 25 pips before we saw sell pressure resume around the 0.92400 level to negate all bullish attempts at this point. So at this point now, it appears we have been taken out of the position right now. We have been taken out, though it's not in a loss. It's still okay that you're taking out at break even or probably small profit than taking out with a loss. So at this point, when I looked at my chart here this morning, the first thing I did here was to acknowledge the fact that price has been bearish since the beginning of this week, and this is the week started on a bearish note here right below the 0.92900 level here. And if we connect the series of lower highs here, this is what we were able to find. So you can see that since the beginning of this current week, price has been bearish, finding lower highs, but price is yet to find lower low. As you can see, how the 0.91600 level has been negating any bearish momentum at this point. So now this is what I'm going to be looking forward to here to take advantage of a trading opportunity during the New York session today. Now we have a structure now sitting at the 0.92400, which is around here, and if you look closely into that structure, you will see how it shares a beautiful confluence with that bearish trend line that has been guiding bearish momentum since the beginning of this week. So I want to see price action do a breakout of that trend line, which also shares a confluence with the 0.92400 level to give me a beautiful signal that buyers are indeed ready to take over this market. So I would like to see something like a breakout of the 0.92400 level, and if possible buy pressure respecting that bullish trend line that we've identified earlier one more time to incite another wave of bullish momentum. And if a further breakout of the 0.92900 level happens, I want to be adding more position to my existing trade. So this is what I will be looking forward to buy the USDCHF for today. So I hope that we'll be on standby to catch that move when it happens. And you might also want to munch my screen so that you can use it as a reference point when you're about to make your individual decision on this pair. Now, talking about selling the USDCHF, after of course we've taken into consideration that price has been bearish since the beginning of this week, we should definitely be thinking of how to sell the USDCHF. Well, like I told you, the respect of the 0.91600 the second time this week is a sign that buyers are very strong at this point. So we have a bust up here waiting for buying opportunity on the USDCHF. But if it so happens that price action breaks down the 0.92150 level, I wouldn't be advising us to jump into a sell yet at the outright breakdown of that structure, as we need further confirmation to buttress that sellers have come to stay. And this confirmation will either come in the form of a retest of the 0.92150 level, or it could even go as far as retesting the bullish trend line and the bearish trend line. Here you can see we have a beautiful confluence around this area. And if it does retest that levels, we want to be seeing selling pressure resume below the structure in our lower time frame, after which we want to be joining that decline to the downside. This is the only way I will be thinking of selling the USDCHF. And if a further breakdown of the 0.91600 level happens, this will be a very, very beautiful signal that sellers have finally come into this market, as it would have taken out all the buy positions here to gain some liquidity, after we will be seeing some selling pressure below the structure to incite another opportunity of selling the USDCHF. So like I said, for us to sell the USDCHF, I want to see price action break down the 0.92150 level, break down that structure. Remember, we are not joined outrightly. We want to remain patient to wait for further confirmation. And the confirmation, I said, will come in form of either a retest of the 0.92150 or a retest of the structure here. Then we look out for selling pressure on below these levels to join that decline to the downside. So if this does not happen, we are not selling the USDCHF for today, as we continue to wait for the breakout of the 0.92400 level for an opportunity to buy. So these are my views here on the USDCHF. If you have any questions, feel free to drop your inquiries in the comment section, and let's see how I can be of help in that regard. Steamroller, do you have questions? All right, you're welcome, Steamroller. So let's move on to the next pair. So the next pair we are going to be looking at today, and this is going to be the final pair for today, is the XAUUSD. And in fact, on the XAUUSD, we have been very, 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 very profitable on this pair. This is my pair for the week so far, as we have 3 positions running right now with a sell momentum. And I told you at the beginning of the week that I am tending towards bearish momentum based on the current structure, as we continue to wait out for breakdown of the 1860. And in fact, it really happened, and we got our position triggered. So let's quickly run through what our expectations were and how the week started for us on the XAUUSD. So at the beginning of the week, we saw a situation where we saw selling pressure resume below the 1865 level, as you can see here. So as a result of that, the 1865 level became our resistance point for this week. Then we saw a bullish buy pressure resume around the 1857 level around here to make that level our support level for this week. And you know, whenever we have a flat channel like this, all we want to be doing is to remain patient for either a breakout of the channel to give us an opportunity to buy, or a breakdown of the channel to give us an opportunity to sell. So that was the first setup we saw here at the beginning of the week. Then to buttress this consolidation phase here was this pennant we identified here after connecting the higher lower highs and the higher lows here. So we had this bearish trend line after connecting the series of lower highs, and we also had the bullish trend line here after connecting the series of higher lows. And you know, whenever we have a structure like this, it's a trend continuation pattern where a breakdown of the support line of that pennant will be a signal for selling momentum. And in fact, we saw the breakdown here on Monday. Price action came back to do a retest of that pennant, the support level of that pennant, and that was a beautiful opportunity to join the decline to the downside. And I told you how we want to be selling right below the 1860. Remember, we were at this point during the live session yesterday. I told you that we should be selling right below the 1860 level. We saw the breakdown of that structure. We saw some little volatility in the market here, and I told you why that was. It was due to the macroeconomic event that happened yesterday, and it actually took about 4 hours for the market to normalize, and then we saw the retest of the 1860, which triggered the sell position. We had a position below the 1857 level, added another position at below the 1854, and we didn't actually identify this during the live session yesterday. I think we identified only 1860, 1857.50, and the 1854, which is 3 structures which I said will be a very good opportunity for us to sell if we do have a breakdown of that structures. Though I shared this one on my public platform, where I said a breakdown of the 1850 will welcome the 4th position at this point. So if you had been part of this position since yesterday, well done guys. This price action had moved significantly well, and if we look at what we have right now, price action has moved about 2,500 pips on the first position. The second position has seen price action moved about 2,200 pips, and the third position has seen price action move about 8,900 pips. So roughly you will be close to about 7,000 pips on the XAUUSD if you are taking the straight position, and if you're only taking one position, it's okay. You will be roughly about over 2,000 pips in profit at this point. So the next thing we want to be doing right now is to move our stop loss accordingly to lock in some profit here. And the most appropriate place I would advise us to move our stop loss will be somewhere right around the $1,841 level here. Let's move in our stop loss around that area. And for me personally, I have my TP target sitting around the 1,830 level. So I want to see price action continue to the downside from this level as we continue to monitor price action. And for those who had missed out on all of these opportunities that we've had here since yesterday, well, I would advise you to remain patient at this point, as there is a likelihood that the sell momentum here will continue. And remember, we have a macroeconomic event coming up today. I think I shared this at the beginning of the session. We have the retail sales, which is coming up in an hour 30 minutes from now. So there will be some level of volatility in the market as well during this time. So ensure you have locked your profit. And I'm still of the opinion that the dollar might likely gain more traction. That will lead to the breakdown of the 1,830 level to the downside. Now, for those who had missed out on this opportunity, this is what we shall be looking forward to join this trend continuation to the downside. So if it so happens that price action climbs back up, taking us out of this position at around the 1,841 level, we might look at price action coming back to do a retest of the 1,850 or the 1,845 level here, where we're going to be looking out for selling pressure around this area to join that decline to the downside. And to make things a little bit easy for us to be able to identify this opportunity, I would like us to use our Fibonacci retracement tool to connect this impulsive move to the downside. I don't know how far this impulsive move will go, but let us use this point for the sake of the session. So if we do use that point, we should be having between the 50 and the 78.6 area as an area to look out for selling opportunities. So we shall label this area the sell window and place it right inside the box. I'll give this a green color and then increase the size of this one to 14, and we give this a yellow color. So we shall be looking forward to see if buy pressure resumes around here, climbing up. We might see a situation where price will come within the zone, but the most important thing we want to be seeing within the zone is a reversal pattern around here to join that decline to the downside. So we shall be looking forward to selling opportunity within the 1846 and the 1855 level for selling opportunities. But if that does not happen, that is if price action does not go that far but instead drops into the structure and hits our TP target, well, congratulations once again. We shall be looking forward to see how price action will react to the 1830 level to decide if we are going to be adding more position to our existing trade or we want to be getting ready to buy the XAUUSD. So if buy pressure resumes here, that is double bottom structure, head and shoulder pattern, whichever case it may be, then we might likely see a situation where price will come within the sell window to incite another wave of bearish momentum. So if you are a counter trend trader or a scalper at the site of buy pressure here, breakout retest of structure, you might want to join this counter trend opportunity that has a tendency of giving you a minimum of 1,400 pips on this one. But if you are not a scalper or a counter trend trader, I would advise you to remain patient and wait for price action to come within this level. Look out for your selling pressure, reversal pattern, then you could join that decline to the downside. However, if price action breaks down the 1830 level, this will be a beautiful signal for us to join another wave of selling momentum. So these are my views here on the XAUUSD. It's a very simple setup we have here on the XAUUSD. I hope you munch my screen so that you can use it as a reference point when you're about to make your individual decision on this commodity. So with that being said, here I will be dropping the curtain this morning, but before I do, and for the sake of those who are not part of the beginning of this live session, let's do a quick recap of what we talked about today, and then we shall be dropping the curtain for today. So the first commodity we looked at today is the US oil, which has been a profitable trade for us in the last 24 hours, and in fact we have a beautiful position running at this point as we have a buy position triggered. So we have been taken out of our sell position with about how many pips that is. We have been taken out with about 50 pips in profit on the sell position on the US oil. And remember, I told you, I shared with you a simple setup here on the 15 minutes time frame, which we identified a reversal pattern around the $78 level after citing this buy pressure around this area, and we were lucky enough to identify a neckline area at the $78.20 level. And I told you how we want to be having our buy stop order right above the structure, and right now if you had placed the buy stop order, your position will have been triggered at this point, and you will currently be running with about 36 pips in profit. And I told you how this is more or less a counter trend opportunity, and that you want to ensure that you move your stop loss accordingly to lock in some profits so that you don't get caught up in any sudden pullback that might likely happen here. Remember, it has been bearish for us on the US oil since the beginning of the week, so we want to ensure that we are safe on this counter trend opportunity. So for me at this point, I will be advising you to place your stop loss right above the entry point here, and let's see how far this bullish momentum will go. And another thing I told you here is how important the $79 level is. Remember, this was our support level for this week at the $79 level, after which we saw the breakdown of that structure, which triggered our sell position here. So I told you that there is a likelihood that price will come back, do a retest of that level to incite another wave of bearish momentum. So I have told you that if price action ever comes into the $79 level, we want to be moving the stop loss of this current buy position to lock in some profit, after which we monitor our price action. Will be reacting to the $79 level to decide if we are going to be adding more position to this current buy position or we want to be getting ready to sell. So this is what we shall be looking forward to. If price action breaks out of the $79 level, we'll be looking out for more opportunities to add more position to our existing trade. And a further breakout of the $79.50 level will welcome additional position here. However, if price action gets into the $79 level and we start seeing sharp rejection of the structure, sudden pressure on our lower time frame, then we shall definitely be getting ready to sell. And if a further breakdown of the $78 level happens, we will be welcoming additional position here. So for those who are taking advantage of this counter trend opportunity at the breakout of the $78.20 level, well done to you guys. Ensure you move your stop loss accordingly, lock in some profit, and let's see how far this move is going to go. So the next pair we talked about today is the US Tech. And on the US Tech, we also identified a channel between the, hold on a second, let me zoom this out a little bit so you can see what I'm talking about here. So we had a channel around the 12,520 level, which has been the resistant level of the channel since the beginning of the week, and the 12,470 level, which has been the support level of this channel. And since enjoying this bullish momentum here at the 12,320, price action came into the structure. We moved our stop loss to somewhere right around the 12,460 level. We were taken out of that position, and I told you that the channel we have between the 12,520 and the 12,470 is still very valid. And I told you how buying above the 12,520 will be very, very reasonable at this point, considering the bullish candle first, and considering the fact that sellers have not been able to come within the 12,470. As you can see, price has continued to float above that level. So I said above the 12,520, we should be buying above that area. And if you already have your position triggered, that is your buy position triggered around the 12,520, it's okay. Let's see how this is going to go. If it happens that we are taken out of that position, it's okay. We've been profitable so far on this pair, and let's see what happened afterwards. Then I also told you that if price action ever breaks down the 12,470 level, we shall be looking forward to selling the US Tech at this point. So that is that on the US Tech. Then we went on to talk about the USDJPY, which we already in the buy position here. In fact, we have been buying the US Tech since last week after joining this bullish momentum above the 131.00 level. And in the last 24 hours, we have two positions running here after buying above the 132.300 level during the New York session yesterday. We also added another position at the 132.900. And during the live session today, we identified this channel between the 133.500 and the 133.200, where we said we shall be using the structure to guide our trading opportunity for today. And I said for those who had missed out on both of these opportunities, we shall be looking forward to see price action break out of the 133.500 level for another buy opportunity. However, it's very possible that price action will drop below the 133.200 level. If it happens, please don't be worried, don't feel anxious. We still have a structure at the 132.900, which shares a beautiful confluence with that bullish trend line that we have here. So there is a likelihood that we could be having buy pressure above the 132.900 level to trigger another buy position on the USDJPY. So we want to be on standby to catch that move when it happens. Then there is a catch to this current structure here, which I said, if it so happens that price action breaks down the bullish trend line here, a line which also shares a confluence with the 132.900 level, that will be a good signal that sellers have finally broken down that bullish trend line, and that bullish trend line may no longer have the capacity to continue to hold bullish momentum. And if that happens, followed by selling pressure below the structure, we shall be getting ready to sell the USDJPY, and I told you I doubt if that is going to be happening, but if it happens, we should be on standby to catch that move. So at this point, as we head into the New York session, we continue to look out for buying opportunity above the 133.500 or the 132.900 level. Then we went on to talk about the USDCHF, where I was using the 4 hours time frame to identify trading opportunities for us for today. And on the 4 hours time frame, the first thing I told you here is to take into consideration the fact that price action has been bearish since the beginning of this week, and as a result of that, we were able to connect the series of lower highs here to give us that resultant bearish trend line. But one thing about this structure is that the 0.91600 level has been negating all sellers' attempts to break down that structure, giving us a clue that we might be having a bullish momentum here. So as a result of that, we have positioned ourselves in such a way that we can catch that move around the 0.92400 level, which also shares a beautiful confluence with that bearish trend line. So we are going to be buying the USDCHF around the 0.92400, and if we have a retest of structure with buy pressure above that level, we shall be adding more position to our existing trade. And if a further breakout of the 0.92900 level happens, we want to be adding more position to our existing trade. Now, I told you something about the 0.92150 level. I said I wouldn't be selling the USDCHF because we need to consider the selling opportunities on this one too as well, if we take into consideration the bearish momentum that we haven't seen here since the beginning of the week. And considering the fact that we had a breakdown of that bullish trend line here, we might likely see bearish momentum happen as well. So we want to take that also into consideration while we monitor price action. Now, if price action breaks down to 0.92150, I have told you that we are not getting too excited if we cite the breakdown of that structure, as we are going to remain patient here to look out for further confirmation, which might likely come in the form of a retest of either the 0.92150 or it could even go as far as retesting both this bullish trend line before another wave of bearish momentum will happen. And if a further breakdown of the 0.91600 level happen, this will be a huge and important selling opportunities to add more position to the existing trade. So kindly be on standby to catch either of these opportunities when they finally happen on the USDCHF. Then we went on to close the day with the XAUUSD, which has been a profitable trade for us in the last 24 hours, as we were able to scoop over close to 7,000 pips if we consider all the 3 positions that was triggered on this market. And I told you that I have my TP target at the 1,830 level, and price action is almost there. We have about 500 pips more for price action to hit a TP target here. And for those who had missed out on this opportunity, I told you that we want to remain patient here, that the market might likely give us another opportunity to join that decline if it comes as a retracement of that previous impulse leg here. So as a result of that, we had a sell window identified between the 1,846 level and the 1,855 area, where we said we shall be looking out for reversal patterns to join the trend continuation to the downside. But if price does not go that far, instead it continues to the downside, it's in our TP target, we want to remain patient at the 1,830 to see how price action is going to be reacting to that structure to decide if we are going to be buying or selling the XAUUSD. So what I said here is that there is a likelihood that we could have buy pressure above the 1,830 that might lead into a situation where price will come back into the sell window to join that decline to the downside. So I said, if you are a scalper or a counter trend trader, you might want to take advantage of the breakout retest of the bullish momentum there to join that 1,400 pips move into the sell window that we have around here. However, if you're not a counter trend trader, hold on and wait for price action to come within the sell window for the selling opportunity. And I also mentioned that if price action breaks down the 1,830 level, this will be a good opportunity for us to join or add more position if you are still in the current sell position there that we are in right now. So these are my views here on the XAUUSD. I hope you are able to munch my screen so that you can use it as a reference point when you're about to make your individual decision. And it's on this note I would like to call it a day here. And I really appreciate every single one of you. I appreciate your attention, and I wish you best of luck during the New York session. And I'm very confident that we are well equipped with all the possibilities that could happen during the New York session today. So my advice is that you remain on standby so that you can catch whatever opportunities that the market will be presenting to us. Thank you very much for being around, and I look forward to seeing you same time tomorrow, 10 a.m. UTC, 11 a.m. West African time, as we come here again to review all the pairs we have been monitoring and at the same time get ready for the New York session tomorrow. Do have a wonderful evening. Bye bye.